Yeah, it's so. Now just paint the countdown at one. One. Okay. Okay, then I will start with the intro and then we will continue.
Now we start the meeting too. We don't start. Okay. Share. Let's wait. Right?
So, six.
Okay, hello and namaste. It's your host Vivek Mayadav and Rotak Basti. And today and tonight actually here in Nepal we have our favorite Andrew Leonard, aka Kludai. Warm welcome, Andrew Ludai.
Namaste, guys. Great to be with you, and yeah, really looking forward to having a good chat about all things Nepali cricket after their first two games in. Well, it's been nearly 3 months, isn't it, since the T20 World Cup?
Yeah, about about 2 months of no cricket in between, and now we have a lot of cricket coming our way, be it international or domestic.
Yeah, after the famine comes the feast, and nearly in time for Dashain as well. So perfect time, absolutely perfect
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Dasa is gonna be crazy for Nepali fans, but only our problem is all the matches are like we have to be night owl.
Yeah, all the games are in Canada and USA,
Yeah,
so not much sleep being got in Nepal right now, I suspect.
yeah. And exactly at this time tomorrow we will have Nepal facing Canada in League Two, which has not been generous for Team Nepal and a nightmare for Nepal cricket fan in particular.
Yeah, look, it's been a tough start, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Probably the bigger surprise for me was the three defeats out of four in February.
at
Although
home.
Namibia and Netherlands are two very good sides. And then yeah, being honest, even though they very nearly beat Oman, I don't think Nepal really deserved to beat Oman. They didn't play particularly well 2 days ago, and in the opening game, they were just outclassed by Nicholas Curtin's innings and Dylan Haylegger's all-round effort. So two performances that are probably going to give a fair bit of concern for Nepal fans. Haven't really adapted to the conditions particularly well, and I don't think they've done the basics for long enough in either of the two games to justify picking up wins.
Yeah, and in particular, as you mentioned, Dylan Hellinger, and he has been outstanding across both innings of Canada. And I just saw the stat, and he has taken 9 wickets in 2 innings and over 70 runs at a quickest rate. So he has been a very vital for Canada in both matches.
Yeah, look, Dylan's been superb. He's a great long-standing veteran of the Canadian team. He's probably playing the best cricket of his career at the age of 34. Um, he knows the local conditions well. He's a big kind of bustling. He's a very broad-shouldered guy, and he comes in and hits the deck really hard, and as a consequence, gets lots of bounce. And I think both Oman and Nepal have not played the
The
bouncy
best.
balls well. It's not a pitch that you're going to get 350 on. It's not a great batting surface, but there is ways to score runs, as we've seen Rohit Paudel do, as we've seen Gulshan Jah do. But some of the approach from some of the top order in all three teams, from Canada, from Oman, and from Nepal, has been a little bit disappointing, a little bit poor. There's been a bit of a lack of fight shown, and yeah, I think certainly for Nepal, it's been two reasonably rude awakenings. I was surprised they made so many changes for the second game, and then the changes that they did make seemed to significantly change the balance of the team. I thought they had too many bowling options in the first game, and then maybe they didn't have enough spin bowling options in the second game because they brought in three batters into the team. So maybe just a little bit of confused thinking at points, and hopefully they're going to settle on their best 11 soon.
As you just mentioned about playing 11, yeah, that playing 11 raised many eyebrows back here. Like we benched our like genuine match winner Kusal Bhurtel, Dipendra Airy, and Kusal Malla. And for Kusal Malla, I feel for some time he has not been at his best, and he should have been dropped. I think quite earlier. But for Kusal Bhurtel and Dipendra Singh Airy, they are genuine match winner for Nepal. And So was that a desperate situation call for desperate measure, or a bold statement from management?
Yeah, look, I think for me, it was probably a bit of a kind of a snap, an immediate reaction to a heavy defeat. They were beaten very badly. 103 runs was the margin, and that was really only because there were some late runs from Sandy Plamachane and Karen KC. I thought it was a little bit throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I thought one or two changes was probably the way to go. I would have liked to have seen Anil Shah into the 11 and into the top three, and maybe push Bim Sharkey down a little bit, and then have Rohit Paudel stay in his key number 4 position. That's probably what I would have done. So maybe he could have come in for Kushal Malla. That could have been the one change. The problem is with the 3 changes, you took out 3 spin bowling options. I know Kushal Bertel didn't bowl in the first game, but he's been in excellent bowling form in recent times. And actually on these wickets, which are really offering significant turn, and I think if he bowls at his kind of pace, which is quite a slow pace through the air, he could cause some problems on these pitches. So yeah, for him to be left out, for then Dipender Singh Ari, the best fielder in the team, to be left out, who I thought was under bowled in the first game, and then for Kushal Malla, again, people will criticise his batting, but he's got the all-round skills too. His left arm spin can be very handy when Rajbanshi's not having his best day. So I think to change all 3 was probably a little bit too far. The only player who hasn't played now in the 15 is Rijan Zakal, who actually would be very effective on this pitch too. So there's almost probably too many options, and they haven't quite settled on exactly what they should be doing.
Just a minute. I think live, there's some issue with the live.
Is it?
I think so. Just a minute, guys. Just give me a minute.
No problem.
I think we are all good. I think yeah, we are all good.
And yeah, and I have a stat which says Kushal Bhurtel is the highest wicket taker for Nepal in this Cricket World Cup League too. Yeah, yeah.
That probably wouldn't surprise me, being honest.
Is that a worrying sign for Nepal, or that is something to cherish?
It's probably a little bit disconcerting that the likes of Karen KC and Sampal Kami aren't taking as many wickets as they would like. I thought Karen KC bowled really well 2 days ago, and the conditions should help him here. He's a little bit more of a hit the pitch bowler than Sampal Kami, who kind of kisses the surface. So yeah, look, certainly for me, I think there's a real opportunity for the Nepal seamers to use these conditions here and to do better. They're not doing particularly well, with the exception of Gulshan Jah.
Okay, so I have also one question, Andrew. Many of the fans were also showing concern about the Rohit Paudel bowling rotation strategy. He used spinners in the death overs, and he was also smashed for 43 runs in the 5 overs. So what do you want to tell? Like usually we don't see spinners doing the death over, right? And the overs of Sampal Kame and Karan KC were also not used properly. So what do you wanna tell about that?
It's been an ongoing problem, isn't it? The death bowling for Nepal. There's probably an argument to be made that their best death bowler is Dipender Singh Ari, which kind of sums up the stocks that they have. I think he's an outstanding bowler. I think he's very, very clever. I think to left and right handers, he shuts down angles. He feels really well off his own bowling. But if he's your best death bowling option, you definitely have problems. I don't think Rohit Paudel's been helped by his bowlers. I don't think they have bowled in the correct areas well enough for long enough. I think if you actually look at the most consistent spell from the 2 games that Nepal have bowled, it's been Arif Sheikh. And Arif Sheikh's an effective part-time medium pacer. He bowled 6 overs, I think it was 1 for 18, but he did nothing special. He literally just came in and hit back of a length and, did the very, very basics right. And that's what you need to do on these kind of pitches. You just need to do the basics right. And Nepal right now are not doing the basics right for long enough with the bat or with the ball to justify winning matches. And that really, for me, has been the difference. You can criticize the bowling changes and the choices and the tactics, but the reality is whoever is bowling or whoever is batting for Nepal, they have to be doing the basics better. And I'll be honest, I think they're a much better team than Oman. In particular, Oman are aging. Oman, I thought they were really poor yesterday. I know they managed to scrap up to get past 200, but they were heavily beaten by Canada. And I think Nepal on their day should be beating Canada in any conditions. They beat them 3-0 at home, obviously in a bilateral series in February. They trounced them really in those 3 games. And they should be doing better. Maybe the Canadian conditions will make it a much closer contest, but they shouldn't be losing by 103 runs to Canada. So hopefully with the 4-day break between these 2 games, they can turn it around for the return matches in the series.
Yeah, our batting has let us down for quite some time, but in this series, there is a strong. There is our bowling has not been up to mark as well. And when in the first 2 matches that Nepal has played in this series, our bowlers had just taken 1 wicket in batting power play first 10 overs. That too by Lalit Rajvanshi. So that for me is the most major concern for Nepal, and we lost Oman because I think because of this.
Yeah, and look, I think that's a really good point. And if you compare that to the way Kalim Sana and Dylan Hayliger bowled yesterday, and even the way Cali Muller's bowled for his 2 opening spells for Oman, there hasn't looked like the same threat from Nepal's opening bowlers. And I think some of that is to do with the surface that we're playing on here in King City. And it's kind of slightly spongy. It's got a lot of grass on it, and it's almost bouncing like a little bit like a tennis ball out to the surface. You're getting the ball to pop from back of the length. That's why Gulshan Jah has had good success, and he's picked up plenty of wickets. He's taller, and he's banging the ball into the surface. Sampal Kami and even Karen KC are kind of coming out at a flatter trajectory, which is kissing the surface. And okay, it might be moving a little bit sideways, and they have been beating the outside edge a bit, but it's not posing that same threat in terms of coming up towards the top of the bat. And that's what Kalim Sana, Dylan Hayliger, Kali Mullah have done brilliantly well. Even Fayez Butt's done it quite well at points for Oman. So it's not something Nepal are blessed with. They're not blessed with a lot of tall, fast bowlers. You know, Gulshan Jah is an exception over 6 foot. You can think of maybe some of the boys who could have been here. You know, a young Akash Chand or a Hemant Dami. Hemant Dami in particular is that little bit taller. The 15 that they have here, they have to try and pick their best team. Now, for me, Nepal's strength is always their spin bowling. And it's not like the surfaces aren't spinning as well. But you're spot on in what you say. There hasn't been enough threats in those first 10 or 15 overs with the ball for Nepal to the early inroads to get ahead of the game. They've never really been ahead in any of the games. They had to battle back against Oman to get 220. And then Jatinder Singh and Kashyap Prajapati put on 74 for the opening wicket. So that really took the game away. It was Oman's manicness with the bat that brought the game back towards parity. And it gave Nepal a real chance of winning it thanks to Gulshan Jah's 5 wickets. But yeah, there's been an awful lot of areas of real concern. And it also, for me, Vivek, it shows how incredibly competitive and tough this Cricket World Cup League 2 is going to be again.
Yeah, associate cricket is at its best now. So many competition, and not only just in Cricket World Cup League 2, many teams that are playing Challenge League, Challenge Cup, they are also very competitive, and competition will just increase. And we have a question from Anish Kandel in our comment section. What's Andrew's assessment on Arif Sheikh batting approach in last match? Was it just a need of the hour, or it was too slow by any standards?
I thought getting Arif Sheikh into the team was a good thing. I think he's a very accomplished batter with a very good technique who will thrive in a variety of conditions. He's not a kind of guy who's necessarily going to win you a game by scoring 120 not out off 100 balls. That's not his style. But I think technically he's very good. I do think the biggest thing he struggled with in that innings was getting Rohit Paudel on strike. Rohit Paudel played exceptionally well. He struck up at a strike rate of over 1885 throughout his innings, and he looked comfortable. And there was just too many dots, wasn't there? And actually ended up having a chat to Arif at breakfast the next morning, just by chance. We sat together and we shared breakfast. This is the team hotel here near the Toronto airport. And I think he was disappointed with his innings. It was effective in terms of bringing Nepal back into the game after that disastrous start. But I think he's got to find a way to just score a few more singles. If he turned 15 or 20 of those dots into singles, that's probably then a match-winning partnership with Rohit Paudel. Instead, it didn't quite come quickly enough, and that meant that even though Gulshan Jah played exceptionally, including smashing Naki Ilyas for 23 off and over, 220, it should have been enough, but it wasn't comfortably enough. If they got 240, 250, they obviously would have won the game. But you've also got to remember that I think that's Arif Sheikh's first innings since April against the Ireland Wolves.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like he's played much cricket. He's not really in the mix in the T20 team at the moment. So ODIs is kind of his format where he's got to shine, and it's very harsh to be critical of him when he hasn't played internationally for 4 or 5 months. And actually, he did a lot better than a lot of his teammates. So I would certainly be sticking with him for the last 2 games, no matter what. Again, it's just the batting order. How is everyone piecing together? It doesn't feel like it's
Yeah, for
settled
for
overall.
for ODI playing 11, I think Arif Sheikh is one of the first selection, the automatic selection in the team. And yeah, for
Mhm.
batsmen, is that just pitch that difficult, or there is some mental block or something like that? Because we see some batsmen like Gulshan Jha, Rohit Paudel, and Nicholas Kirtan, Dillon, they are playing like it is a completely batting friendly track, and while some they are just struggling to even rotate the strike. So what's that going on?
The pitch is very difficult, particularly in the first hour or 90 minutes. So the first 15 overs are going to belong to the bowlers. And that's where, like, we even saw it yesterday for Canada. I think they were 20
Yeah,
for 2 or 22 for 2 after 10 overs, and they still made 276. Now, the wheels fell off for Oman. They bowled some dreadful stuff particularly in the last 20 overs.
yeah,
Now Nicholas Curtin played very well, and Harsh Thakur battled through to get a good 90. But it's just a case of you've got 2 new balls in operation in all ODI cricket, so you've got a new ball at either end. And whilst that ball is very hard and very firm, you're bowling it into this kind of spongy, grassy, tennis ball bouncy surface. If you're a good fast bowler, and Kalim Sana is certainly that, he's one of the best bowlers
mm,
in the associate game. I think he could easily play in franchise leagues all over the world at the top level. And he's going to take that new ball and he's going to dominate that first 5 or 6 overs. You've got to find a way to get through that. I don't think you're going to be able to get to 50 for none or 50 for one or 55 after the first 10, but you've got to readjust your sights. You've got to try and find a way of being, you can get to 30 for none, 35 for one. That's not a bad start. And then you can see it as soon as it gets to the sort of 12th, 13th, 14th over, the ball just goes a bit softer. It stops reacting as dramatically out of the surface. And you end up with a position whereby you can actually start to accumulate runs. So it's about how you structure that innings. And you have to remember an ODI is 300 balls. It's a long time. There's a load of different ways to get to 250. And, if you look at Nepal's 2 batting efforts thus far, the first one was a really poor one. It was actually
mm.
shockingly poor, some of the shot selection and some of the lack of fight that was shown. And then again, you saw, with credit to Sandeep Lamachani, he's not much of a batter. He was still able to hit some runs towards the end. Karen KC is always effective lower down. They were the 2 top scorers of the innings. So they have to, I suppose, plot and find a path and a way to how are we going to score 250 in this innings to make it a winning score. And being honest, these 2 games, the 2 remaining ODIs, are hugely important. If they were to lose those 2, all of a sudden this campaign, I know it's only eight games old, is starting to look like a really difficult one, and it's a long way to get back into the mix of top 4 and qualification for the Cricket World Cup qualifier.
Yeah, just Nepal has lost 2 points from their first 6 matches, and important 6 matches. I think six matches coming in this tour of Nepal, be it Canada and USA. And looking at the current circumstances and the overall performance of other teams too, what do you think should be a realistic goal of Nepal? Either top 4 or just top 6 and retain that ODI status, most important ODI status.
Look, I suppose this is a little bit, times like this are times where you have to assess what are the goals of the organization as a whole. And Paris Kadkan and Monty Desai and Rohit Paudel, the leaders of the kind of both the board and then the national team, they've been pretty strong in what they've said. They want not just to qualify, they want to start dominating associate cricket. And the reason they
Yeah,
want to do that is they want to start to press towards test status. And I think that's the correct goal. That's the correct aim. But there also has to be an acknowledgement of how tough this league is. There has to be an acknowledgement of the difficulty of the conditions that you're going to play in overseas. And then there has to be a reality about, who is going to step up and win Nepal matches in the variety of conditions that they're going to play in. So, they'll move from here down to Texas, and that's where those games are going to be held. I'm not sure if that's publicly announced yet, but that's certainly the indication I've been given. All of the matches will be at the Grand Prairie Stadium there, which is a fantastic facility that Nepal played against the Netherlands in during the World Cup. And there'll be very different conditions down there. There'll be good batting conditions, flat decks. They may well suit Nepal significantly better. But that's the brilliance of this league. You've got 8 countries in a very disparate set of locations around the world. One African team, a couple of Middle Eastern teams, one Asian team in Nepal, 2 European sides, Scotland and the Netherlands, who are very different conditions, and then USA and Canada, they're neighbours, but it's a world apart. King City to Grand Prairie Stadium, you're talking about one incredible world-class facility down in Grand Prairie, and you're talking about a very difficult, challenging facility there in King City that we're playing in here. So I guess the goal probably remains the same, to try and finish in the top 4. They probably wanted to win this league coming into it, and that looks a long way away right now. But equally, think about the run that they got on last year, and even though that was somewhat freakish, winning those 11 from 12, there's definitely still a path to the top 4. Top 1 or 2 might be very difficult.
Exactly, Andrew. And I want to ask about Dipendra Singh, right? He is no doubt one of the best player in T20I, but looking at his stats in ODI, he has a batting average less than 20, I guess about 17 or 18. And
Yeah.
no doubt he is good in bowling. He has been economical in ODI too. But don't you think, as an all-rounder and one of the best batsmen in the team, don't you think the average seems a little bit concerning for the team, and team management might have some better option than him in ODI especially?
Yeah, look, I think naturally we can do it as broadcasters as well. We can get lost in statistics, and we can look at someone's career numbers, and it doesn't often paint the full picture of someone's value and worth to the team. Should Dipendra Singh be averaging more than 18 with the bat? Of course he should. He's a better player than that. What numbers he batted in those ODIs? I would say he's batted
6, 7.
probably number to 9, I would say.
Yeah.
If I'm looking now, I would say he's probably batted in his career from number 5 to number 9. So he's playing a role there, which could be coming in and trying to rescue the team from 50 for 3, or he could be coming in with three overs left at number 9. And that average is often a bit of a misnomer. He is a better batter than that. He should be averaging more. But I think his overall value to a team, particularly with his fielding, and his bowling, which is much better than it was 3 or 4 years ago at the start of his ODI career. For me, I would be bowling him 10 overs almost every game in every condition. And then I guess what probably much of the team needs, in my opinion, is a slightly more defined role as to where they're batting and what their role is when they come into bat. So we see a huge amount of flexibility in the order. Gulshan Jah has batted at number 3 in ODIs. He's also batted at number 9.
Yeah.
And that flexibility is a good thing. And for the players to have a bit of flexibility is good, but they also need to know their role. What's their role in terms of how quickly they're looking to score? Are they the one who's trying to take the aggressive route and find the boundaries in the second power play? Are they the one who's being sent in to finish the innings and try to hit 4s and 6s towards the death? There's probably been, I don't know, in the 36 last ODIs and these 6, so that's 42 games. There's probably been 30, 35 different batting orders. The only real consistent was Kushal Bertel and Asif Sheikh at the top.
Yeah.
And even that's now not the same. So when you're making the order, you could say Kushal Bertel, Asif Sheikh at the top, Leonard Rajvanshi at 11. Anything else could go on in between. Sofal Kamil batted 5. He batted 10 the other day. So people will say that the flexibility is a good thing. I also think there needs to be a little bit more role definition so that the batter that's coming to the crease knows exactly what they're trying to do within that innings.
Yeah.
And yeah, I will ask. So this is the question from the comment also, and this is my personal question too. Before we didn't have an option for opener, or we can say number 3, but right now we can say Arjun Kumar is also one of the finest opener batsmen. We have Dev Khanal as an opener, or we can see him at number 3 too. So, and we have Anil Saha too. Team management took the risk last match, and it wasn't that fruitful. But do you think we can see the replacement of, for example, let's take Kusal Gurtel from the next series? What do you think? Either Arjun Kumal or maybe Anil Saha as the first choice. What do you want to say on that?
Yeah, look, Arjun Kamal's a great young talent. He was brilliant in the 19s World Cup, wasn't he? Played beautifully well. I think he's got some technical shortcomings.
Especially
Which
against Netherlands, New
yeah,
Zealand.
and look, he scores almost all his runs on the offside, and he's very strong there. But the problem with the modern game is that there are team analysts in every single team, every single setup, and there's footage that goes around of every single one of these players. So I think there's a reasonably large chance that if he was thrown into international cricket immediately now, that he's going to be found out quite quickly. So he's got to work on the short ball. He's got to work on accessing options into the leg side. Like many of the batters in Nepal, one of the challenges they have is they are not tall. They don't have huge presence. Like Arjun, he can't be more than what, 5 foot? Is he 5'4" or 5'5"?
Yeah, he's not too tall.
He's not tall. Now that doesn't mean he can't be an exceptional international player in due course.
Yeah.
But certainly, I think back to that 19s World Cup, I felt that anyone who bowled straight at him or bowled with a short ball at him, unless he was coming back out of the way and ramping it, which he did a little bit, he actually got caught out down at deep third a couple of times. He didn't seem to have a hook shot, didn't seem to have a scoring option, and he got cramped for room in here. So I think against the likes of a Kalimullah, against Dylan Hayliger, against a Kalim Sane, he could be exploited. So it doesn't overly surprise me he's not in the squad yet. That's not to say he won't get there in time. He's a great run scorer. And, we saw that innings he played against the Ireland Wolves as well, that there is potential there for a big international future. I think, for Kushal Bertel, I don't know why people keep trying to write him off. Again, I know he's not had the same success in ODI cricket that he hasn't had in T20I cricket, but for me, he'd be one of Nepal's best six batters. There's no doubt about that. I'd probably like to see Dev Kanal in the team myself. I know he's here as a travelling reserve. I think he just gives you that something a little bit different. He's very tall, he's very elegant, he's very languid with his style. I think he's a wonderful driver of the ball, and he's got a good hook shot. So I think he's got a lot of the tools that could succeed at the top level in difficult conditions. But he also has got into a funny habit of getting to 10 or 20 or 30 and getting out. So I guess whoever that they're going to go with, they need to give them a run of games. It's no good playing one, like for Arjun Saud now, who's come in. Is he going to be dropped for the next game? So, how can he come in for one game, not make a score, be dropped, and then they say, okay, he's not good enough? Like, that's very unfair. I always think back to Ireland's Andy Balbirnie. I reckon he played 40 games in international cricket, and he made maybe 150. And look at him now; he's one of Ireland's best batters and a super option at the top of the order. Test match winning captain. So sometimes you have to identify a player and say, okay, we're going to give him a run of games, whether he's getting runs or not. And for me, of all of them, I think Dev Kanal would be the one that would stand out as the one with the most potential right now. That's not to say that Arjun Kamal or Arjun Saud or Anil Saha aren't actually going to be great international cricketers. It's hard to predict, but just from what I've seen of all of them, and I've obviously watched so much Nepali cricket, I think Dev Kanal is someone that is worth investing in.
Yeah, I think Dev Khanal has many qualities that most of other Nepali batsmen lack. And yeah,
Possibly.
Last time when we had a chat, then we talked about, especially you pointed about Rizan Dhagal, a left arm pacer from Nepal, and he is currently with Nepal as Nepal's third pacer. Do you see him playing for Nepal this series, or do Nepal need him as Supal Gami and Karan Kessi has not been that effective? Especially Karan Kessi, I think, has been effective and bit unlucky to not take wicket in power play.
Yeah, Karen Casey has bowled well. He's been unlucky. I always go back to this. I was talking to Rohit Paudel about it the other day. Nepal's strength is their spin bowling.
Yeah.
And I think whatever the conditions, wherever they are in the world, they should bowl more spin than pace. And that's a byproduct of the resources that they have. So for Rijan Dakal, who's definitely the kind of the reserve seamer here, I'm not sure how much he'll play. We've got young Pratish GC, who's a very skillful bowler as well. I think both of them probably need to add a yard of pace, and that doesn't come overnight. That's going to have to come with strength and conditioning and bowling loads and get that a little bit quicker. But Dakal in particular has got that really good off cutter and bowls those change ups so well. I think on this surface could be quite effective. Probably may see him in the T20s. I don't know if there's been a dedicated T20 squad named yet, but if he's in the T20 squad, hopefully he'll play a few of those. I just wonder about the balance again. I'm not sure they need to be picking three seamers. So Gulshan Jah, Karen KC, and Sampal Kami. I would personally I'd probably pick two seamers. I'd book the trend. I'd say I'm going to back our spinners here. And with Arif Sheikh in the team, you've got a few overs of medium pace from him. And then I would be saying, okay, Sandeep Lamachani, Lalit Rajbanshi. I couldn't believe Rajbanshi only bowled 6 overs the other day. I didn't think that was the correct call. And then you've got to get Dipender Singh Ari back in the team for me. There's your 30 overs of spin. And then if Bertella's in, you've got some part-time leg breaks from him and Rohit Paudel as well, or Kushamala comes back in. There's almost too many options, isn't there? And this is the problem. The fact that you and I are discussing that and the balance, and the fact that you can see Rohit Paudel out there kind of trying almost, well, hold on, who do I turn to now? But the teams that have had success here have kept it simple. And Canada have kept it simple. Canada have said, right, Dylan Hayliger, Kali Masana, you're going to open the bowling. You're going to bowl 6 from each end because we know it's going to help you. Then we're going to get Harsh Thakur in if there's left-handers batting. We're going to get Sadbin Safar in if there's right-handers batting. We've got a bit of variety in Ansh Patel, who looks a real prospect and a real talent. And they know what they're doing. They know their bowling plans. They've got Akhil Kumar, who bowls with a good heavy ball and a good yard of pace, and he bangs it into the surface. And, we overcomplicate the game. We all do it. Pundits do it, fans do it, captains and coaches do it. And I think really strongly, I think Nepal have overcomplicated their cricket here. I think as a consequence, they haven't got close really to winning the games. You can think they were close against Oman, but that was due to Oman struggling at the moment.
Yeah, I think just too many options doesn't give you a solution.
Definitely, absolutely.
Yeah, and let's put Nepal aside and let's also focus on the interesting tri-series going on other part of the world, Namibia, USA, and UAE. So that was an interesting match between Namibia and UAE, where UAE chased down 306. So what do you want to tell about that? The series is going on interesting. USA beat, UAE by 10 wickets, and after that, UAE beat Namibia by 1 wicket, but it was an interesting series. Yeah.
USA has won both matches. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the points table here on my tablet, and there is a little bit of a look of a 2-tier setup right now. It's really early to call this, and look at UAE, for example, have so much talent. They've got their own selection issues, it looks like, to say the least. I don't know how Varithya Aravind is not in their best 15. It boggles the mind. But right now, it does feel like there's a bit of a gulf between the Netherlands, Scotland, and USA. I think they're the 3 best teams in this competition. Canada have done really well despite a dreadful tour in the Netherlands. They've won 6 from 10. They can win 2 more here, they're going to be top of the table. In fact, they just need 1 more win to be top of the table. All of it's a bit skewed because everyone's played such a different number of matches. But there's also, I think there's some concerns for Namibia, which is surprising me. Pierre de Bruin has, got a small pool of players there and just battling with no Ruben Trumpelman. The bowling doesn't look as threatening without him. He's continuing to be injured. JJ Smith's not bowling right now. For Oman, I would be really surprised if they finished in the top 4 at the end of this campaign. I think they look like a side. I know they've only played 6 games and they've got 5 points from them, but they look like a side that are aging, that are a little bit short of options. They've got some great servants, the likes of Kali Mullah's bowling as well as he's bowled. Zishan Maksud is still a very good cricketer, but if Aki Villias doesn't get you 100, I don't know where the runs are coming from. They've gone back to Jatinder Singh, which is good to see. He's a nice guy. He's a great player. Prajapati looks horribly out of form. The shot that Pratik Atavele played yesterday, given the game situation, I think they were 17 for 3 at the time. It was as bad a shot as I've seen. It was a big boink across the line, trying to clear. I don't know where he was trying to hit it, and he inside edged it. He was dismissed by Hayliger. And then Nepal have real concerns. You know, you have to remember that top four is the goal, but if you can't finish in the top four, you desperately have to avoid seventh or eighth. Because if you finish seventh or eighth down to that qualifier playoff with the sword of Damocles hanging over your head, you could lose your ODI status.
Yeah, top 6 should be a bare minimum, I guess.
And imagine the progress that Nepal have made over the last 3 years. Imagine they're in early 2027 heading to a qualifier playoff with the prospect of losing ODI status hanging over their head. I don't think it's going to happen. I still think Nepal will have enough, particularly when they get back home and to other conditions that they'll favour, like in Oman, like in UAE. I still think they'll have enough to finish in the top four, but it couldn't really have been much worse of a start, could it, to be honest? And they need to start turning things around pretty quickly.
The Nepal has been a slow starter historically. And yeah, can we say it's Netherlands, Scotland, and USA to finish in top four, and rest and one among Namibia, UAE, Nepal, and Canada to compete for the fourth. It seems like that.
I would think that's really likely. I think from what I saw, the Netherlands, I did the 2 tours there. I was in Dundee and I was in the 3 different venues we used in the Netherlands for the USA, Canada, Netherlands series. From what I saw, the Dutch, they are just brilliantly drilled. And that's a Dutch side that have played their 8 games with very few of their county players. You know, they didn't even have Bas de Leede there in the Netherlands in the recent home series because he was playing for Durham. No Colin Ackerman, for example. No Tim van der Hupten, who's been in sensational form for Glamorgan in the county championships. Roland van der Merwe is starting to get a bit older. But what they've done really well is they've put all their players on 7-month contracts at home. And everyone who wants to play for the Netherlands needs to be based there in the Netherlands. They're playing in the top classes, so their domestic club competition has gained strength. And, you know, you look at the way someone like Kyle Klein bowled, who was, you know, a bits and pieces player struggling to get into the team. He was exceptional. And they're very well drilled. They're very well coached. They've got a toughness to them. I'd be staggered if they're not in the top 4. In fact, I'd quite fancy them to be in the top 2. I think Scotland have a real depth and a real quality. Doug Watson coming in as head coach has been a great thing for them. Richie Berrington is he's just the dreamboat of associate cricket. He seems to keep going, and George Munsey's probably playing the best cricket of his career. You stick in Brandon McMullen to the mix, Mark Watt. They're all exceptional performers. I think they'll have more than enough to finish in the top 3. And then USA, bear in mind, they should have beaten the Dutch in those 2 games. They should have played 6 and won 6. Stuart Law has really turned them around. They've always had brilliant players, but they've generally had a lot of issues off the field. But Stuart Law is somehow battling those politics domestically and finding a way to make them win. So it's those 3 plus 1. And because Canada have got this great early start, you know, maybe Canada are going to be the favourites. But the other thing you've got to remember, we're chatting here on the 21st of September, 2024. This league isn't going to finish till December 2026. So we've got 2 years and 4 more months of it to play out. I love the narratives that build. I love the tri-series formats. I love the different parts of the world we go to. If I was a Nepal fan, I would be really concerned, understandably. But I think they'll win tomorrow. I think they'll find a way to turn it around and beat Canada. The sides that play the back-to-back games often struggle. And I'll tell you something, if they can't beat Oman in 4 days' time, they should be really disappointed, because this, for me, is not a good Oman side.
If we cannot beat Oman, then Oman can be a favorite for top 6. Because
quite possibly.
And we have to be win tomorrow, and because we can't just be at 0.2 after 7 matches. And
I know what you're saying, and I understand the importance of all of the games. I think the players are feeling that pressure. The players see the stuff on social media. They see the fanaticism. They see the frustration of the fans, and all of the frustration is very understandable. There's no surprise that fans are frustrated, given the potential in this team. They should be winning more games. But even if they lost tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. There's a lot of time to come. But I think they'll turn it around tomorrow. I hope they'll pick a slightly different team. I would probably I would probably make two changes to the team that they played yesterday. I'd probably take out one of the quick bowlers, so I'd probably give Sampal Kami a rest, and I'd probably pull out Arjun.
South.
Yeah, I know it's harsh, but I'd probably pull out Arjun Saud. I'd get Daniel Sa back up in the top three. I'd probably bring Kushal Patel back into the team. That'd probably be the two changes I'd make.
Okay, so no Dipendra.
Well, God, there we go. I'm not even picking dependence if I read. I'm going to make three changes. I forgot Dependra was. It shows how difficult the team is to pick, doesn't it? And yeah, there's probably 13 into 11 don't go. Look, maybe I'll leave the team selection to Monty decide. He does it better than I do.
But who knows? We may see another miracle of 13 matches, 12 wins this time also if we, didn't win. But let's see what we're going to see. And Andrew, I want to ask you about another thing. The Festival of Himalayas is coming near. How excited are you? Like, we will be having auction in few days. And how excited are you for that event?
Yeah, look, hugely excited for the inaugural Nepal Premier League. There's been
Yeah.
a really good build-up, isn't there? Feels like they're doing all the right things. It's hard to say what a league is going to be like till it gets going, till you see the rosters and
Yeah.
the schedule and all that. But it feels like, given the difficulty with the prior league, and remember, there's been a great history of franchise cricket in Nepal.
In
There's been
Nepal.
a couple of wonderful additions, the Everest Premier League, for example, as well.
Exactly.
But the one last year was a disaster, wasn't it? It was probably the first and only trip I've not enjoyed to Nepal, being honest. The weather was terrible. The crowds were poor. There
Audience.
was no buzz about it. In fact, the only thing that was even vaguely okay was the broadcast. Everything else about it was really poor. And I think, in fairness, because Paris Kadka is now the secretary of the board, you've got a cricket person in there making cricket-focused decisions. And they seem to all be really good decisions. And they're putting the players first. Players have got proper contracts now. I just saw the tiers announced this morning for
Yes.
the domestic players are going to earn, which again I think is pretty significant compared to prior editions and prior competitions. It's hopefully, I think the branding looks good. I'd love to see. I believe it's just going to be played at the TU, all the games. I would love to see in future years. I'd love to see it expanded beyond that, and get down to Bhairawa, get down to that extra tech oval, and see if they can bring Mulpani up a little bit to get some games over there. I don't know where the Gautam Buddha Stadium is at right now in terms of its development, but I think some money's going back into that. And if you started to get it to a kind of home and away point, you'd really start to activate fans from all over the country. But if you look at the 8 franchises, they seem to have picked them well. They've kind of come from really good cross section of Nepal, and I'm just hoping that we get colourful kits, we get some big name players coming in. I would love to see some of the best Cricket World Cup League 2 players get rewarded alongside some of the other big names around the world. But I hope it doesn't become like a T10 league somewhere else where it's the same players. It's Jason Roy, it's James Bisham, it's Romario Shepherd. I would love to see a little bit of uniqueness to Nepal's league. So I'd love to see the likes of Michael Levitt. Yeah, I'd love to see Michael Levitt get rewarded from the Netherlands. I'd love to see some of the Irish players there. I know that the Irish players have spoken to me at length about whether or not there'll be opportunities for them, because they don't have internationals in December. So, are we going to see Paul Sterling come back to Kathmandu? I know he loves it there. Will we, maybe see a Harry Tector, Josh Little? I'd love to see a good cross section of the cricketing world be exposed to the wonder of Nepal, and that would include some big name Test players. The David Warner story. Interesting to see if he comes.
Hopefully, he will come.
Yeah, we'll see. Look, there's probably other guys I'd like to see over and above him, because David Warner is, he's on the way out. He's finished his international career. I'd be more excited by someone like a Shai Hope or Shea Hope coming, something like that. Or a Ryan Rickleton, who had a brilliant Major League Cricket. Not So it's not necessarily the guys who are going to be fan pullers that will excite me. It's really it's the guys at the very top of the T20 game at the moment, you know. And I think there's certainly going to be enough players going around the world who'll be desperately keen to come and see Kathmandu and experience the Festival of the Himalayas, like you say. So November 30th to December 21st
Yeah,
should be exceptional.
with that lots of good work going off the field. We just hope Nepal cricket will now just move forward and upward.
Yeah, and look, I think that's the encouraging thing, though. Maybe for the first time in a long time, there is
Yeah,
good things happening off the field,
off the field.
and the importance of that. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, the stuff off the field, but it's so important. And you see that with how Canada have struggled in the Netherlands by letting go Pubudu Dasanayak. I didn't think that was a good decision. And, you know, they immediately struggled as a consequence. We've seen the problems UAE have had because of, again, some of the coaching appointments that they've made and the backroom staff that they've gone with. You've got to give the correct structures and support to the teams off the field, and that's both from an international teams, men's and women's and youth, as well as the franchise setups and then the kind of commercial partnerships and tie-ups. So they've done really well to sell 8 franchises. The money exchange hands seems to be quite significant. All of those teams are at least 51% Nepal owned. Some of those are from people who've invested in cricket before within Nepal, from what I gather. So all the signs are really good for that Nepal Premier League. I'm hoping for I'd love to see that broadcast seen all around the cricketing world, and more people get exposed to what cricket in Nepal is.
Exactly, Andrew. And we have also a rule that at least one foreign player should be an associate player. So that is also a really that's
Has
also
that
a
been
really
announced?
Yeah,
yeah
it has been announced.
yeah.
Okay, that's
There
great.
will be
That's good.
out of 16 squad there will be 4 foreign players maximum in that squad, and one must be an associate player. So you know, like you have talked, we may see the top associates player for each team.
So that's going to be there'll be 7 Nepal players in the 11, 4 foreigners, and one of the 4 has to be an associate player.
Yeah,
No,
playing in the squad, but there is
In the,
no in the squad, team squad.
okay, but in a starting 11, then you could have seven Nepal players, 3
That has
international
not
and 1
yet been
associate.
that has not yet
yeah,
been announced, but it has just been announced that in each team will have a squad of 16 members with 4 foreigners, including
Okay,
associate player.
so there'll be 12 locals then in the squad.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's going to be exciting to see it. And look, one of the great things that I loved about, my first ever experience in cricket in Nepal was the Everest Premier League in 2018, was
yeah,
just some of that young talent that was being discovered, and I keep thinking of someone like a Surya Tamang, Tul Bahadur Thapa. There's so many players, who hopefully can really get to start to show how good they are and press some of these other big Nepal stars.
yeah. That is what NPL will be about.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we're going to unearth some real talent. There's so much cricket going on across the country, and that we saw Anil Shah force his way back in through weighted runs, in January through the PM Cup. And I think there's going to be hopefully a couple of real stars of the future on Earth.
Okay, and yeah, there is an interesting case of Anil Shah. Last match, our openers were Asif Sheikh and Arjun Saud, and at 3 we had Bhim Sarki. And Anil Shah is someone who loves to play at top of the order. So how will team manage this? Whether bring Anil Shah in place of Arjun Saud or bring Anil Shah in place of Bhim Sarki and drag Bhim Sarki down the order.
Yeah,
And
I thought,
Bhim Sarki has also scored most of his runs at number 3.
yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? It really is tricky. I thought Anil Shah at 7 was really, really strange. He didn't look comfortable there either. It
Yeah.
looked like he was coming in to play a role he didn't know how to play. Um, I think he's got to open or bat 3. He really does. I've actually got my little my Instagram live in the background, and a big shout out to Chris Greaves from Scotland who's watching in. He says
Hey.
Kathmandu is a great spot for cricket, and the world needs to experience it. Spot on. Really good Scottish all-rounder. Looking forward to seeing him in action soon. Someone like him
He
might be a
will
good
be in
option.
NPL.
Yeah, I could see him in the MPL. I think we should see some Scottish players. Sorry to jump back topic there.
No,
Mark,
advanced from Chris in the NPL.
there you go. You got Grivo. You got a big shout out from Vivek and Rotchak here, who would love to see you there, mate. But yeah, I think we should see George Munsey, Brandon McMullen. You'd imagine those boys are going to they're so 150 kilometers an hour. But yeah, look, the order for the Nepal batting, it just seems to be not nailed down, does it? And as a
Yeah.
consequence,
So much
they're getting
experiments and
themselves, into these positions whereby I'm commentating and I don't know who's going to come out.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't know who was going to open the batting the other day. I presumed it was going to be Anil Shah, and then got the surprise of young Arjun coming out instead. So look, they've got to. They're the ones. They were up there training at the ground yesterday. The coaching staff are the ones seeing the players go through their paces and identifying exactly where players should be. But there's been a little bit too much uncertainty, I think, for probably an extended period. They need to probably nail down an order and stick with it. And if that means that Bim Sharkey has to drop down the order and bat at number 5 or number 6, it might be the solution, because I think Anil Shah has to bat in the top 3 if he's playing.
yeah. And does Kusal Bhutil come back to his opening position tomorrow?
I don't know. Look, I think if I look at the 15, I think Kushal Patel is still in your best 11 for me. I don't know his exact numbers the last little while, but
Yeah, the numbers are. He's the third highest ODI run scorer for Nepal in 2024.
there you go. And also something that we always go on about how brilliant a fielder Dipendra Singh Ari is. Kushal Patel is not far behind him. He
Yeah.
is outstanding.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
world-class fielder.
He has taken some stunner.
Really stunning catches. But yeah, again, if you look at his pure numbers, okay, so we often go on the last 10 matches. His highest score is 16.
Yeah,
That's
against Netherlands.
excluding the innings against the Sri Lanka side they played in the warm-ups. But he's also taken 8 wickets in those games. He took 4 for 19 against South Africa. He was close to unplayable there in St. Vincent.
When we look about ODI stats in 2024 for Nepal, Roy Bhim Sarki has scored the most runs, 240 runs in 9 innings, and Anil Shah has 237 in 7 innings, and third is Kusal Bhutel with 188 runs in 7 innings. So he is still the third highest run scorer.
There may be a case, and you might think I'm crazy. We're talking about getting some certainty in the batting, but there may be a case for him dropping down the order in ODIs.
Yeah, he has done that before.
In these conditions. Because what you could then do is you could go Asif Sheikh and Anil Shah up at the top, Bim Sharkey at 3, Rohit Paudel at 4. I actually quite like Gulshan Jad a little bit higher up the order. Kushal Mala's not in the team. So you've got a Dipendra Singh Ari or a Gulshan Jad 5 and 6. And then Kushal Patel can just come in and play with some freedom towards the end. And then still bowl his leg breaks. That may well be an option as well. But this is the problem. We've been on this call for nearly an hour. We've come up with 20 different batting orders, and there's too many options. So I'm not sure there's any perfect solution. But I think what they've got to do is pick an order and stick with it. And that's for the remaining ODIs here and probably the 4 ODIs down in Texas too.
Exactly, and I think Dylan Halliger is also watching you, Lenny. I think he's also watching you. Many have commented that in YouTube. So I think.
Okay, Dylan. Yeah, Dylan is a great friend of mine, and probably responsible for a little bit of his good form recently, because I think he is such a. I think he's such a incredible ball striker down the ground in particular, and I think you saw him yesterday, first ball smash for 6. I think he's a wonderful cricketer. I think he's an underrated batter, and he's the leading wicket taker in Cricket World Cup League 2 right now. He's a long way clear at the top. He's got 23 wickets, and Harsh Thacker's the leading run scorer. So two fantastic individual performances of Canada in good shape.
Andrew, and we have also a message from Tonka Timal Sinha, one of the top singer here in Nepal, one of the favorite singer here in Nepal. He is happy to see you and he's saying you namaste. He is chatting with
Namaste,
us right now. Yeah,
namaste, Tanka. Lovely to see you, mate. He's one of the great supporters of cricket.
yeah,
We
Really,
get
really enjoy him.
yeah, exactly. And okay, guys, yeah,
for
go ahead.
let's talk about associate cricket as a whole. Like associate cricket has been growing at a ridiculous pace currently. Netherlands and Scotland are battling for establishing their supremacy, while teams like Canada, Nepal, USA are also making rapid progress. And there are many newbies, like many not newbies, many other teams like Italy, Japan, Kuwait, who are also like Kuwait have just qualified for
Yeah,
World Cup, Asia World Cup qualifier ahead of Hong Kong. That is big news itself. So, is and the ICC has also taken some good initiative like expanding the T20 World Cup, and now ODI Cricket World Cup is also be expanded.
to 14
So, the
teams.
all great signs for associate cricket.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt it's got its own brand now. And sometimes I have discussions with people and they say, why should we be calling it associate cricket? We should just call it international cricket because it is
Yeah,
international cricket. But
yeah,
I think one of the reasons I like to use that term is it's an empowering thing. I think it's a way to differentiate the challenges that the associate men and women and youth players that they have. They have less funding, they've got less facilities, they get less opportunities than all of the players that come from the full member nations, and that's something to celebrate. It's something to celebrate the adversity that they go through to still chase their dreams and represent their country and get to world events and go to World Cups and dream big and dream of beating South Africa at a World Cup, dream of beating Bangladesh at a World Cup and coming so close to it. And
so close.
look, I come from a small country. I come from Ireland. We were an associate nation my entire life. I never really thought we would ever be a test nation. In fact, I don't really think of us as a test nation, even though we get the benefit of the money and now the ability to play test cricket. We're still very much an underdog nation. Um, and the game is bigger and better than ever. The pathway events, the structure that the ICC deserve great credit for putting in place, has given all of these sides a real opportunity to show how good they are. And I know, again, probably something I haven't said yet on this chat is that I was devastated with the broadcast the first 2 days. I know how bad it was. We had really significant power and internet issues that basically made it impossible to broadcast from. Luckily, they've been fixed, and the broadcast was fine yesterday and should be fine for the rest of the 9 games left. But it shows that how far we've come. That in 5 years ago, we weren't able to watch any of these games. We might have been relying on a text message update or an internet
Text message
scorecard.
and ESPN cricket.
Exactly, and now we don't have to imagine how brilliant the catch that Defender Singh took was, or we can see it all. And look, would I love if it had a little bit more exposure? Yes. Would I love if the ICC social media channels and other networks gave more coverage to the highlights and to give people access to be able to watch both the live footage and the clips? Of course I would, but there's a huge amount of work that goes on from a lot of people, a lot of unsung heroes who don't earn a lot of money to broadcast these games. And I'm not talking about me as a commentator. I'll go to the end of the earth to cover cricket. You're talking about cameramen who stand up for 8 hours doing every single ball, sometimes in freezing conditions, sometimes in extreme heat. We've got tiny crews. There are literally less than 6 people that work really hard to bring you those pictures. So I've never seen as many comments, negative comments about the first and second games broadcast, and rightly so. Fans deserve better. But just rest assured that they were infrastructural issues that were beyond anyone's control. The ground doesn't have internet, doesn't have a cable power. We're working off a generator, and so the associate game deserves more, deserves better. There's plenty of money in modern cricket. But if you think about where associate cricket is now compared to 10 years ago, it is light years in advance. We've got associate players being signed on merit in franchise leagues. We're seeing real opportunities for men and women around the world. And yeah, that 20-team World Cup is probably the most transformative decision of the lot of them. And the fact the next one's in India and Sri Lanka, and can you imagine what that's going to be like if it's correctly promoted and run?
Yeah,
Imagine if Nepal can qualify for that. Every Nepal game, wherever it
that'll
is
be
in India,
massive.
is going to be sold out. And I think ICC have been up as well to the fact that Nepal are a big draw. You know, they're a really big draw. They were one of the few games to sell out in that group stages in America.
Nepal
You
versus
know, so
Netherlands was still out.
it was incredible. And you know, I think if Nepal qualify, and hopefully they can, it's not going to be easy. I think you know the ICC should be looking at saying, okay, let's get Nepal based in Delhi and Dharamsala, and let's see the people flood across the border.
Or Lucknow, which is very
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I actually, on even though there was 2 associate wins over full members, even though Nepal had a great World Cup, I was a tiny bit disappointed by the performances of the 9 associates.
yeah.
I think they can play a little bit better than they showed. And I think what we should see at the next T20 World Cup, because of all these T20 triangular series, I think we'll
More
see
wins.
slightly better performing associate sides in 2 years' time if they can adjust to the conditions in India and Sri Lanka. And yeah, hopefully so many more glorious upsets and favourite days. Ian Bishop said it himself. His favourite thing of the whole tournament wasn't India beating South
Yeah.
Africa in the final. It wasn't Afghanistan getting to the semis. It was Nepal and their fans, particularly
Yeah.
there in Texas.
Yeah.
So you know, he's the best in the world. If he's saying that, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, there is. Let's talk about Sandeep Lamichhane a bit. As in 2 games, he has taken 2 wickets at an economy of around 5. So, is he over trying or what's going on? Because he's not that. He's has not been that successful. What we are used to Sandeep Lamichhane.
Um, I think there probably is a little bit of that. I think he is a world class bowler,
Yeah, no doubt.
and the way the ball is coming out of his hand at the moment would fill me with a lot of hope going forward that he's got his best years ahead of him. Um, Leg spin is a very unique thing. It's something that I obviously bowled myself, and it's a very difficult thing to analyze and understand if you haven't bowled it. But I know leg spin really well. I think he's bowling beautifully. I think there's just strategically and tactically a little bit of a hunt for wickets as opposed to a hunt to build pressure. And there it's a subtle thing, but a lot of that comes down to the line that he's bowling to the right-handers for me. I think he's such a good bowler that if he bowled in a 60 ball spell, if he bowled 50, 52 leg breaks and 6 or 8 or 10 googlies, I know he's got lots of variations and he's got lots of different googlies, he's lots of different leg breaks. But if he actually kept it that simple and he bowled on a fifth stump line, fourth, fifth stump line outside the off stump, didn't change that line, I think he'd bowl 10 overs and he would not go for more than 25 runs. And I think he would pick up between 2 and 5 wickets every time. But the problem is, and I know this has been a leg spinner, particularly when I was younger, sometimes you think you want to take a wicket every ball. And because he's so good, he feels like he can take a wicket every ball. So he'll go looking a little bit straighter. He'll bowl a bit more towards middle stump, towards leg stump. And then that's where he gets picked up into the leg side. So it's a patience thing. It's also it's building your spell in a different way in an ODI than to a T20I. They're very, very, very different formats, and they're
Yeah.
always growing further apart. So look, I think he'll have at least a couple of games in this series where he'll take really big wickets and he'll impact the game, probably be a player of the match or two, maybe in the T20s or maybe in one of the 2 remaining ODIs. But again, how much ODI cricket has he played in the last?
Just he has
When was his
been
last
back to
ODI?
ODI.
Over a year.
Was
Yeah.
against India in Asia Cup. He's back to
There you
ODI
go.
after a year.
So there you go. So again, it's actually a bit foolish of us to expect him to be able to just come in and take 4 for 20 in his first game back. So I think that just from forget about the strategy for a moment, from watching the ball come out of the hand, the way it's curving out of the hand, the way in which he's landing his leg breaks, more than good enough to fill me full of confidence that he'll have a very, very big impact on Cricket World Cup
Hopefully, he
22
will have his,
20.
he will have a great impact tomorrow, and Nepal will lead him tomorrow against
They will.
Thailand.
Like, they absolutely will.
Basically, and I'm going again back on the ICC structure. They have merged the East Asia Pacific and the Asia region altogether. Do you think that can be the reason due to the viewership? Because PNG was getting an easy slot for the World Cup from the Pacific region every time, and they were not doing that much great performance. Uganda beat them in the last World Cup, and so that one of the reason that ICC merged the both region can be also the reason because of Nepal, or if you talk simply talk about the viewership, because it may look hard for Nepal to qualify if Hong Kong was there, because out of four, any three could have been qualified.
And we cannot underestimate Kuwait. Kuwait has been playing really well lately.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, look, I think firstly, probably a little bit harsh on Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
Papua New Guinea very nearly beat the West Indies in their opening game in
Yeah.
Ghana.
yeah.
I think I'm going to have to look it up, but I think Andre Russell
And Russell saved
Yeah,
the day for West Indies.
saved them. Yeah, I think he got 15 or 20 off 7 or 8 balls. At one point, they needed 10 and over on a very tricky wicket.
Yeah.
And PNG are a good side. They're a very good fielding side. They're a good bowling side. They probably struggle a bit with the bat. Did they deserve a kind of a free slot, if you will, from the East Asia Pacific region, where they only had to beat Philippines and Vanuatu and Japan or whoever it was, whoever they needed to get by. I actually think, from a cricket perspective, I know a lot of associate fans are quite upset with it. They think it's politics, and it is politics. The reality is that there's a big Asian voting bloc, and it's a very powerful voting bloc, and they want another potential team there. There is the potential it could backfire. Samoa have just won their qualifier. The talk I hear is that Ross Taylor is going to play for that Samoa team in the final. Ross Taylor, the former New Zealand captain and batter. They've got a lot of players from New Zealand first class cricket. I'm not saying they'll qualify, but they're not going to be a pushover. We see the other sub-regional qualifier coming up. I think that's going to be played in Korea. Japan have some very good players, so Japan might get through that. So it'll be Japan, PNG, and Samoa potentially that will then come and join. I think it's going to be 6 teams from Asia. It might be 7. Again, I'm not quite sure how the qualification structure is going to work. But one thing is for certain, that whoever gets to a World Cup from those regions is going to have to play some good cricket. And as you rightly said, Kuwait are no pushovers. They got past Hong Kong. I think it was Malaysia that went through with them from the sub-regional.
Yeah, Malaysia and Kuwait have joined.
Yeah, so Hong Kong have been knocked out. We've seen Hong Kong definitely be good enough to, sure they beat Nepal recently, didn't they, in the ACC Premier? There's no easy games in Asia, so I think everyone's thinking, oh well, it's just going to give another spot to Asia. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I can see Papua New Guinea qualifying, absolutely.
Yeah, they're New Guinea, and somehow on their day they can beat anyone.
Exactly. You just never know. So it will make that final a bit more exciting, and there'll be 3 spots up for offer. I just hope that they get the structure of it right, because historically, I think the structure that they had for the Asia qualifier last year wasn't particularly good. 2 groups of 4, and then concurrent semi-finals, and we had the rather farcical scenes of because Nepal didn't win their group, they had to travel up to the Mulpani, which was nowhere near adequate to take the number of fans that people wanted to go to the game. So look, let's hope.
And that too against UAE, arch rival.
Exactly. The old El Clasico, and that's denied UAE of a spot. And they're a brilliant T20 side. So look, let's hope that they put together a good structure for that joint Asia EAP final. I don't know where it's going to be held. I don't even actually know when it is, but it'll have to be in 2025 at some point. And so we'll get through. I think the second sub-regional, the one in Samoa or in Korea, is this week.
In Korea,
next week. Yeah. So let's just hope Nepal can get through, because I think Nepal being in a World Cup in India and Sri Lanka, that would be
massive.
Massive.
Yeah, most of us might go. Even I might go if it in Lucknow or anywhere near.
Well, there's a great film called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, a Hollywood film from the 1980s. John Candy was in it, and it described ludicrous journey across from the east coast to the west coast of the states that involved planes, trains, and automobiles. I think it'll be the same for Nepal
Same
fans.
for
They'll
all Nepal fans.
get there by any means. Some of them will walk if they have to.
Stadium will be packed due to because of the Nepalis residing in India only. I don't think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think so.
will
But I
too.
think plenty will
Yeah,
go. Plenty will go across the border as well. I think plenty will
it's
travel
gonna
by.
happen definitely because we saw that in Sri Lanka last time in Asia Cup. So in Pakistan also we saw that. So yeah, definitely India is too easy to go. You just have money. You just you know purchase the ticket and you are in
No
India.
visa issue.
No visa issue, nothing. You can just
So
go.
big shout out to Barry McCarthy who's having a watch in the Instagram live feed as well. Not in the Ireland squad for that South Africa series coming up. I think he's got a bit of a back
Okay.
injury. And Sobit Trestra says Dylan Hayliger is watching. He's probably in a different room. He was getting a massage. Just had a look. It is 9 teams in the Asia and East Asia Pacific qualifier. So the 3 that are there automatically are Nepal, Oman, and Papua New Guinea, having got to the last qualifier. Samoa have won the East Asia Pacific qualifier. Asia qualifier A is Kuwait and Malaysia that have gone through. EAP qualifier B starts in South Korea in next week, and that's 4 teams playing out for one spot. It's Indonesia, Japan, Philippines, and South Korea. I think Japan will be favourites there, and then the Asia qualifier B, UAE have to be in that, so they'll have to get through that. But it is going to be 9 teams in the joint final. So I don't know how you do a 9-team competition.
Maybe a single round robin. It can happen, and top four may
It
go to the
will. That
semi-final.
will be a lot of
The top
matches.
3 go. Be quite good, that wouldn't it? I'd quite like that.
Yeah,
But no, it says here, annoyingly, the most reliable source of information for this is usually Wikipedia, and yeah, that's what I've got here. I've got it's a 9-team. Well, you can see that
yeah.
9-team final there, in the joint Asia East Asia Pacific region. That could be a hell of a competition if they play 8 games each. I know the Europe final next summer is only 5 teams. So
Yeah.
that's Jersey, Guernsey, Italy, the 3 sub-regional winners, and then Netherlands and Scotland.
Yeah.
And
That's really
I
very
thought that was
interesting. Italy
well,
team.
I
I think
think
Italy
Italy
team
are a good
is
team.
strong enough to beat Scotland and Netherlands on their day.
You'd be making Kevin O'Brien very happy, who's their assistant coach. He thinks so too. But I think that's only a single round robin, So it is. You'd like to see a little bit more depth to the qualifiers in terms of the ability
Yeah.
to lose a game and still qualify, because like Nepal have had that heartbreak before where they've won 4 from 5 and not qualified.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to UAE, didn't it?
Yeah.
In the
The
Asia
worst
qualifier
thing,
last year.
the worst thing about this single round robin is one soft defeat and you are out of
Exactly, yeah.
contentions.
And that's where the double round robin in the Americas last year was good because it gave Canada a chance to get back. I think it was the same for PNG in the East Asia Pacific qualifier, but I don't know how they're going to do that.
But it
9-team
was bad
competition,
for
maybe.
Zimbabwe as it was single
Yeah,
round robin.
Yeah.
yeah, that
Zimbabwe.
was 7 teams in Africa. But again, they lost to Namibia on the opening day,
Yeah.
so that they had to have themselves to blame.
Lost to Namibia and lost heavily.
They did, yeah, very badly.
We have an interesting and funny comment. Dylan Hillinger is watching Andrew live. Since he started the live, he might be knowing some tips and tricks to bash Nepal from Andrew, and one guy is commenting.
The funny thing about the associate world, the players are all pretty friendly with each other.
Yeah.
And that there's nobody that understands or shares the scale of challenge that they go through. Nepal are in a fortunate position now where all their players are full-time professionals.
Yeah.
Canada, that's not the case. They continue to be fighting for their contracts right now, and even in USA, even a lot of their players will make a full-time
Yeah.
living from cricket, but some of them will be coaching. Some of them will be reliant upon private gigs in some of the open competitions. Scotland, even a side as fine as them, they only I think have maybe 10 or 12 of their players on something approaching a full-time retainer contract. You know, someone like an Ollie Hares he's working at a school during the day and then he has to go hit cricket balls at night. So, you know, everyone understands how difficult it is, and they understand how, you know, when they're having a great day and they win, the other team is suffering. And even though sometimes things get heated on the pitch between the players, off the pitch, they always share the same hotel on all these tours, and a lot of the players are very, very good friends.
Exactly, and I think we have some comment. Um,
Pratik is asking where my Dakotopia is. It's always here. Don't worry. It's always close. I do love this one. I'd be lucky if I lost that one.
that's pretty nice, Dakatopi. Quite a
And
different.
really nice.
Yeah, it's very different. It's very good.
I really, really like it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to wearing that. If I can come back in December, if they'll have me back for the Nepal Premier League,
hopefully,
opening fixture,
hopefully,
opening fixture, get me out there for the toss. We'll have the Dakotopia. It sounds like a plan.
Is there any League Two matches in December? I don't think so, right? I guess you might.
No, that's one of the other great things that for the league. You know, there is no Cricket World Cup League 2 scheduled, so they've got all the associate players.
Most of the associate players are
really
free.
do.
and
And actually,
will be available, I guess.
I hope so. I hope so. I don't think the production company is being finalized yet, but as soon as they are, and I think the production is a really important thing.
Yeah.
They get a very professional, world-class broadcast together, because that is really going to be the window to the cricketing world, to show people things there in Kirtapur. And you know, if we can have a drone as part of that broadcast, if we get good crowds, look, in a dream world, the floodlights would be done by then, but I don't think they will be.
No,
And
there will not be floodlights this time.
Season 2. Let's hope for season 2.
Hopefully, season 2
Um,
and home and away concept in season 2. That will be better. And for
Yeah,
this,
if you imagine that, be great.
for this season, I think all the matches will be at Kutipur and some occasionally at Multani.
Yes, I want to answer just one question from Thapa on my Instagram feed here as well. He's just asking, why is the broadcast being so bad? If you didn't hear earlier, we had some really difficult power and internet issues at the ground that affected the first 2 games terribly. They've been fixed, and for anyone who watched the Canada-Oman game yesterday, I think there was no problems. So I would expect no problems tomorrow and for the rest of the series. And it'll be the same setup for the T20s, actually, with a couple of additional cameras, so the coverage will be slightly better for the T20s too.
Okay, so I guess that should be it for today.
Yep.
So, yeah, guys, if we have any last questions, let's do it. If we have any last questions, then let's ask Andrew if you guys have any.
And do you have? Are you traveling to US for the US leg of Nepal tour?
Can't give you that exclusive yet. I don't know. We'll see. Let's hope.
Okay.
Let's hope I can get down
Let's
south of the border, because I love it down there. Texas is that Nepal Netherlands game in particular. It blew my mind. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It was so special. It really was.
Yeah, Nepal's return to world event after 10 years. That was a great match. Just it would have been more memorable if Nepal could have held their chances and won the match. I think dropped catches to be blamed or whatsoever.
Yeah, there was the drop catches, and it was a big toss to lose as well. The thunderstorm overnight had made the batting conditions very difficult in the morning. So yeah, I would hope that, I know it's going to be a tough series at USA and Scotland, but I'd hope that the much better batting surfaces there should help Nepal. I think they'll play better on better wickets.
USA and Scotland, that will be of comparatively even tougher competition than this series.
No, absolutely, and that's why this series was so important. And it's been such a disappointment to lose the first 2 games for Nepal.
Yeah, Nepal should gain some momentum from this last 2 remaining ODIs and start. Okay, so guys, I think that's it for today. And
one question we have. Yeah. Is there any chance of Ireland versus Nepal in 2025? Andrew.
I would love for that to be the case. I've worked really closely with Paras and the Irish board, Cricket Ireland, who I used to work for, and you know, Richard Holdsworth and the team there. We really tried in 2024. We weren't able to make it happen for a few different reasons, predominantly logistics and timings. But we were able to get the Ireland A team there, and I know the Ireland Wolves had loved their time in Kathmandu. So I'm really hoping that we will see Ireland come and play the full sit side at some point, but I don't know when that might be. I know that there's a bit of a gap in February 2025 for Nepal, but the problem is Ireland are playing Zimbabwe then, so that won't work for Ireland. So it might be another big nation that Nepal are trying to tempt to come in and be the first test nation to come and play full internationals there in Kathmandu.
Okay, so that's it for tonight. And last one, Butwal Don has asked, what is cricket nod? So actually, nod means someone who is extremely enthusiastic about a particular subject. So the cricket nod is run by 5 of us who are enthusiastic about particularly of cricket, and hopefully you all will continue supporting us. And that's it for
I
today.
think
And
we look not also like.
I can assure you I'm a cricket nerd, so I'm there with you guys, I promise. It was great to be with you, and it's always nice chatting to you. I'll hopefully chat to you again soon.
and
Thank you so much.
we wish and hopefully we will meet you in person when we are back in Kathmandu for NPL or some other series.
Sounds like a deal. Let's catch up. Let's have some Momo and
Okay.
Momo and some hot lemon ginger honey. That'd be nice.
Okay, that's it.
Exactly.
Signing off for tonight, and yeah, keep supporting us and subscribe to our channel. And thanks,
Namaste. Namaste.
thanks Andrew for
Thank-
joining us
thank-
tonight.
Dandavat. Great to see you guys. Great to be with you here on
Thank you.
Instagram too.
Thank
See ya.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.